The Donald Trump administration has issued a memo stating they will begin to prioritize denaturalizing criminals. These are individuals who came to the United States and acquired citizenship, but are now criminals, were criminals, or lied in some way on their forms, as well as individuals who received citizenship but then committed fraud against the United States government, among other crimes. This memo's got a big list. The Trump administration has already, according to NPR, stripped citizenship and denaturalized at least one individual over child crimes. I'm trying to keep it light. I always try to keep it light in the beginning, but you know what I mean. Very serious stuff. Now, the Democrats are crying, saying, you can't do this. The Constitution says nothing. This is codified law. I got the law pulled up for you. I will break down. Denaturalization is not only possible, but it is required of the DOJ. The law actually states that the Justice Department must pursue denaturalization where they believe people had fraudulently received citizenship. How would we not have that remedy? The idea that we would allow someone to become a citizen, but once they walk in the door and then reveal themselves to be a terrorist or criminal, and we go, drats, he got us. He lied and is committing crimes. Nope. The process by which we can take away someone's citizenship actually exists. Now, if you're born here, bit different. But if you were not born here, there are caveats to when you sign those forms, take that test, and swear those pledges and all of that stuff. And it can be revoked. Now, I actually think that the DOJ isn't going far enough. And I think we got to get some seditious conspiracy charges. I mean, everybody's always screaming treason this, treason that. People say Trump is a traitor. And it's like, traitor to who? Okay, the point of treason is that you're aiding and abetting an adversary, an enemy. No, sedition is when you seek to undermine or overthrow the U.S. government. And what we are seeing now with many of these far-left individuals and many jurisdictions, like in Portland or in California, they are actively conspiring to undermine the authority of the United States and have been doing so for decades. If the Trump administration wants to take this seriously, perhaps we will eventually see some seditious conspiracy charges. You know, like the ones they locked up the J6ers on, even people who weren't even in Washington, D.C. So this is not unprecedented. In fact, I believe it's a requirement. And look, I want to stress, they're going to keep telling you seditious conspiracy is over the top. It's too much. It's not even, it's like a 10-year sentence. Seditious conspiracy against the U.S. isn't even as bad as like some fraud crimes. Like there are crimes of fraud you can commit that are going to get you 15 to 20 years. Seditious conspiracy, it's like 10 years max. You could get 3 years or less for seditious conspiracy. And to be fair, they compounded the charge on the J6ers and gave them like 2 decades. The point is, if there are individuals conspiring to obstruct the enforcement of the law by the federal government, that is seditious conspiracy. Then I believe these people got to be charged. But let's take a look at what's Trump doing right now, taking away people's citizenship. My friends, smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know, and don't forget, go to boonieshq.com, boonieshq.com, and pick up your Don't Be Gay skateboard. Now, we're not here to rag on anybody. We also have the somewhat less popular Be Gay. The choice is yours. See, we knew that for Pride Month and MAGA Month, we were going to get in the middle of some culture war, and so we said, we'll make both. So we have our Pride Month collection, which is Be Gay or Don't Be Gay, whichever one you want. We've sold out of these. They're selling like crazy, and they're available at boonieshq.com. And also, my friends, don't forget, the Culture War live on stage. We got 3 dates in Washington, D.C., July 26th, August 2nd, and August 9th. August 2nd tickets, that's the confirmed date with Michael Malice and Angry Cops, Alex Stein and myself, and those are selling quick. I know, even though it's 2 months out, or a month out. Wait, oh, yeah, because we're doing every week. It's about a month out, and they're selling quick. So make sure you pick up these tickets. July 26th is available, but we have not yet announced the debate or the guests, so that will be coming soon. But again, go to dccomedyloft.com and go to events. You'll find it, or click the link in the description below. We want to see you guys there. Dude, the Michael Malice Angry Cops event, I am more excited for than like any event we've done. These guys are both absolutely amazing and hilarious. They're both Trump guys, but they disagree on the issue of cops. So it's going to be interesting. And again, Angry cops, Michael Malice, these guys are hilarious. Alex Stein's going to be sitting there shaking his head, not knowing what to do because these guys are so crazy. But we're really excited for this show. It's going to be epic. And check it out. A couple hundred seats. It's going to be a big show. Let's get into the news. We got this from NPR.org. DOJ announces plan to prioritize cases to revoke citizenship. Now, the struggle I have with this is when I first heard the news, I could not think of a word that means more than based. And so I was like, well, I can't call it based. That's not enough. Anyway, the DOJ is aggressively prioritizing efforts to strip some Americans of their U.S. citizenship. Department leadership is directing its attorneys to prioritize denaturalization in cases involving naturalized citizens who commit certain crimes. Mega-based? And giving U.S. attorneys wider discretion on when to pursue this tactic. According to a June 11th memo published online, the move is aimed at U.S. citizens who are not born in the country. According to data from 2023, close to 25 million immigrants were naturalized citizens. And if you want to commit certain crimes like against children or fraud against the U.S. government or its people, then why are you a citizen? What is going on here? What's going on? You can't run for president. At least one person has already been denaturalized. Let me stress that again for you guys. Donald Trump ain't sitting around doing nothing, okay? We had 324 criminal charges on that fraud against the U.S. government. So we're talking about DOJ. We're talking about waste, fraud, and abuse. The DOJ found $14.6 billion in fraud and issued charges against 324. Let's go. Now, they've already denaturalized, stripped the citizenship from somebody who was distributing child sex abuse material. They're lucky denaturalization is the only penalty they get. I mean, they're getting prison and all that stuff. On June 13th, a judge ordered the revocation of the citizenship of Elliot Duke, who uses they/them pronouns. Ooh, thanks for reminding me. Duke is an American military vet originally from the UK, who was convicted for distributing child sex abuse material, something they later admitted they were doing prior to becoming a U.S. citizen. Denaturalization is a tactic that was heavily used during the McCarthy era of the late 1940s and the early 1950s, and one that was expanded during the Obama administration and grew further during President Trump's first term. It's meant to strip citizenship from those who may have lied about their criminal convictions or membership in illegal groups like the Nazi Party or communists during McCarthyism on their citizenship applications. Assistant Attorney General Brett A. Shumate wrote in the memo that pursuing denaturalization will be among the agency's top 5 enforcement priorities for the civil division. I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know how you guys are feeling. It's summer. It's the first day of MAGA month. I can't forget, shout out to Steven Crowder and the Mug Club for this Rumble morning lineup. Man, I'm feeling good. I think we should take the boys out to celebrate, pop some champagne. Donald Trump is getting the job done. Now, there's a lot more that we want to see. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people are upset about the Epstein files. I hear you. But I think Cash, Dan, and Pam are actually doing a decent job. These fraud arrests that we found, you got to don't forget, you got a bunch of smaller jurisdictions. Now, I was talking to General Flynn the other day, and he says the problem is they're just cracking the surface, or they're barely getting to the deep of the deep state. There's a lot of bad people still in there, but this is phase 1. It is just beginning, and I like what we are seeing so far. They go on to say, the civil decision shall prioritize and maximally pursue denaturalization proceedings in all cases permitted by law and supported by the evidence. The focus on denaturalization is just the latest step by the Trump administration to reshape the nation's immigration system across all levels of government, turning it into a major focus across multiple federal agencies that has come with redefining who is let into the U.S. or has the right to be an American. Since his return to office, the president has sought to end birthright citizenship and scale back refugee programs. Again, based. But immigration law experts express serious concern about the effort's constitutionality and how this could impact families of naturalized citizens. The DOJ memo says the federal government will pursue denaturalization cases via civil litigation. An especially concerning move, said Cassandra Robertson, a law professor at Case Western Reserve University. Yes, Case Western Reserve. I've heard of them. I haven't, but you get the point. In civil proceedings, any individual subject... Let me just pause. The reason I did that and just said that is because you can find a professor at literally any university anywhere in the world to agree with your opinion, so you can inject it into a news story. It doesn't mean it has merit. Anyway, in civil proceedings, any individual subject to denaturalization is not entitled to an attorney, Robertson said. There is a lower burden of proof for the government to reach, and it is far easier and faster to reach a conclusion in these cases. Robertson says that stripping Americans of citizenship through civil litigation violates due process and infringes on the rights guaranteed by the 14th Amendment. I humbly disagree, but who am I? But some guy whinging on the internet. Hans von Spakovsky, with the Conservative Heritage Foundation, supports the DOJ's denaturalization efforts. I do not understand how anyone could possibly be opposed to the Justice Department taking such action to protect the nation from obvious predators, criminals, and terrorists. As for due process concerns, Von Spakovsky said nothing prevents that alien from hiring their own lawyer to represent them. They are not entitled to have the government and thus the American taxpayer pay for their lawyer. That is not a due process violation, since all immigration proceedings are civil matters and no individuals, including American citizens, are entitled to government-furnished lawyers in any type of civil matter. And he is correct. The DOJ and the Trump White House declined to comment for this story. Broad criteria. Let's roll, baby. According to this new memo, the DOJ is expanding its criteria of which crimes put individuals at risk of losing their citizenship. That includes national security violations and committing acts of fraud against individuals or against any government, against the government, like Paycheck Protection Program, loan fraud, or Medicaid or Medicare fraud. Quote, to see that this administration is plotting out how they're going to expand its use in ways that have not seen use before is very shocking and very concerning, says Samira Hafiz, policy director of the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, a national advocacy organization providing legal training in immigration law. It is kind of, in a way, trying to create a second class of U.S. citizens, where one set of Americans is safe and those not born in the country are still at risk of losing their hard-fought citizenship. She said, sure, if you are abusing children and defrauding this country, you can lose citizenship. Cry me a river. Listen, I think there is an argument to be made that this will put immigrants who come here legally at a higher criteria of losing citizenship or a higher criteria for penalty for crimes. I don't care. I have no problem with this. Listen, if you are duly convicted of defrauding the government, then there is a penalty that will apply to you and you can be denaturalized. Now, I do think there are questions about the individuals who are naturalized and whether or not they retain citizenship in other countries. But I reject the idea that once you walk through the fence, walk through the gate, we are now forever beholden to you, even if you're abusing children. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Now, I understand if you're an American citizen born here, it won't apply to you. Well, that's too bad. It's too bad for the illegal immigrants. The people who are born here are going to face the penalties and go to prison for committing these crimes all the same. But they are people who are born here. And if you were not born here and you want to come here and ask us permission, okay, there's something different there. Now, I will say this. There is going to be a legal challenge in that regard. I mean, for like a legal issue. What happens when someone is a naturalized citizen for 20 years and then we find they committed a crime or committing these crimes and they've renounced citizenship or have no citizenship? I think that will create legal issues. But listen, if you are duly convicted of a crime through due process and then you are civilly challenged and you can fight it, this is not some issue where Trump is rounding people up and destroying lives. He's saying it's due process. You committed a crime, here's a penalty. And I'll put it this way. They're going to go on and they're going to make the argument, you can't do this. Lies. 8 U.S.C. 1451, revocation of naturalization. Not only is it within the law to do this, and has been for 70 years, it's a legal obligation of law enforcement. It shall be the duty of the United States attorneys for the respective districts, upon affidavit showing good cause, therefore, to institute proceedings in any district court of the United States in the judicial district in which the naturalized citizen may reside at the time of bringing suit, for the purpose of revoking and setting aside the order admitting such person to citizenship and canceling the certificate of naturalization on the ground that such order and certificate of naturalization were illegally procured or were procured by concealment of a material fact or by willful misrepresentation. And such revocation and setting aside of the order admitting such person to citizenship and such canceling of certificate of naturalization shall be effective as of the original date of the order, and respectively provided that refusal on the part of a naturalized citizen within a period of 10 years following his naturalization to testify as a witness in any proceeding before a congressional committee concerning his subversive activities or her. In a case where such person has been convicted of contempt for such refusal shall be held to constitute a ground for revocation of such person's naturalization. The point is, when these liberals come out, excuse me, and they say, it's going to create a second-class citizen. It's not fair. Oh, that's always been the case. Look at, we scroll down, editorial notes. Section 702 of the Nationality Act of 1940 as amended, referred to in subsection G, which was classified as section 1002 of this title, was repealed by section 403A42 of Act June 27, 1952. This has been long-standing law for 70 years, longer than that technically. If you want to go back to 1940, where they initially had this, it has always been the case that if you are naturalized, they can revoke your citizenship. So cry more, I guess. I don't want to hear it. MSNBC. Trump's DOJ is prioritizing denaturalization. The Constitution has something to say about that. Yeah? What? You did 14th Amendments? Let's play, baby. Last week, Rep. Andy Ogles of Tennessee sent a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi that called for a federal investigation to determine whether New York mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani, a naturalized U.S. citizen born in Uganda, should be subject to denaturalization proceedings based on an 8-year-old rap lyrics that Ogles claimed would constitute material support for terrorism. In a news conference Monday, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt indicated that allegations, if true, were something that should be investigated. They should be. See, what they're trying to cover up is that Zohran Mamdani was praising some organization that was funding Hamas or something. And if he concealed that fact and became a citizen, then, yeah, that he's in violation of the law, literally, the one that I just read to you. Now, the argument MSNBC is making, it's just rap lyrics. Well, rap lyrics, I would say, are the probable cause. The investigation will now be witness testimony, social media posts, or other writings to make some of these determinations. Look at this. I don't know why the computer is doing it. It just reformatted the screen again. It'll go back in like 10 seconds. Anyway. I think it switches them. Is that what it's doing? Anyway, Zohran Mamdani can be investigated over this. And then should it turn out that he wasn't actually, and it was rap lyrics written by someone else, then whatever, I guess. Is it going to give me the, whatever. Well, I'll keep reading. I know it's going to be harder to see now because the computer's on a fritz, but sometimes the computer's on the fritz. They're going to say, as the apparent next step in the Trump administration's mass deportation regime, this rarely used, potentially far-reaching government power is getting newfound attention. As legal scholars who study denaturalization, we believe the new Justice Department policy could significantly expand the circumstances under which naturalized Americans might lose their citizenship in ways that raise serious constitutional questions. Denaturalization is the government's power to revoke people's U.S. citizenship after they've been naturalized. Unlike deportation, which removes non-citizens from the country, denaturalization strips away the citizenship itself, returning people to their previous immigration statuses and potentially making them deportable. Okay. Yeah, I don't see why not. Now, I got this formatting problem, and it's really screwing me up, and I'm not happy with it. But I guess we'll see. The computer's on the fritz again. This is what happens, man. This is what happens. But let's carry on. Not only are we moving in that direction, but we have this from the Post-Millennial. DOJ sues over unlawful sanctuary city policies. The complaint stated that LA's sanctuary cities policies are in violation of the Supremacy Clause found in Article 6 of the Constitution. Oh, boy. I'm going to say it again. I believe that they should file seditious conspiracy charges against these individuals who are running these sanctuary city policies. These aren't policies that are like, we're going to have a 2% tax increase or something. These aren't policies that are like, we're going to build new roads or stop people from, parking their scooters anywhere they see fit. Scooters now have to go into a designated area. No. This is the policy of obstructing the U.S. government's law enforcement apparatus intentionally for political gain, and for which is seditious conspiracy. The Post-Millennial says, the DOJ has sued the city of Los Angeles, as well as LA Mayor Karen Bass, over the city's sanctuary city policies. Sanctuary city policies. This came after the Trump administration conducted a number of immigration enforcement operations in the city that led to riots taking place in the streets against immigration and customs enforcement agents. The complaint stated that LA's sanctuary city policies are in violation of the Supremacy Clause found in Article 6 of the Constitution. And as a result, the policies are unlawful, unenforceable, and void ab initio, or void from the beginning. With the complaint, the DOJ seeks to bar LA from enforcing the sanctuary city policies, which would allow for the federal government to be better able to take illegal immigrants into custody. In a press release, the DOJ stated not only are Los Angeles' sanctuary city policies illegal under federal law, but as alleged in the complaint, Los Angeles' refusal to cooperate with federal immigration authorities contributed to the recent lawlessness, rioting, looting, and vandalism that was so severe that it required the federal government to deploy the California National Guard and the United States Marines to quell the chaos. Attorney General Pam Bondi said of the lawsuit against LA, sanctuary policies were the driving cause of the violence, chaos, and attacks on law enforcement that Americans recently witnessed in LA. Jurisdictions like Los Angeles that flout federal law by prioritizing illegal aliens over American citizens are undermining law enforcement at every level. It ends under President Trump. Now, I'm going to say, I think the individuals that are running these policies should be charged with seditious conspiracy. And I'm going to pull it up. Let's pull it up. 18 U.S. Code 2384. We read this recently, but I'll read it again for you. If two or more persons in any state or territory or in any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States conspire to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the government of the United States, or to levy war against them, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force to seize, take, or possess any property of the United States contrary to the authority thereof, they shall each be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. I was wrong. I said earlier 10 years. It's 20. Serious crime. That's it. So this is going back to 1948. It's been amended several times. 1956, 1994. Let me ask you a question for those in the chat. If two or more persons in any state or territory conspire to, delay the execution of any law of the United States, would you agree that sanctuary jurisdictions include, these jurisdictions are run by, or these policies are maintained by two or more persons that are trying to delay the execution of any law of the United States? I would argue that is a seditious conspiracy. I certainly think so. And I think it is only through cowardice that we don't actually get these charges. Now, there are a bunch of other charges they could potentially bring. You've got misprision of treason. I don't know that. Let's see. Okay. If you know of treason being committed. The reason why I don't think treason applies, and I always bring this up, it says whoever owing allegiance to the U.S. levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the U.S. or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned, not less than 5 years and fined under this title, but not less than $10,000, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. Now, it's funny. Not less than 5 years. So it's a 5-year minimum. And I believe sedition is a 20-year maximum. So what is it? Not more than 20 years. And this one says, not less than 5. So if you commit treason, you're getting 5 years at minimum. You could get potentially more. But treason is waging war. I know some people might try and argue that the people that are invading this country, and listen, spare me the lies, the left can just, I'm not interested. When you have thousands of people marching through Mexico, holding up large flags of their home nation, you're waging war against us. And so there's a serious question, but I don't think treason applies to these government officials or anything like that. Sedition, yes. That being said, they say it's not an invasion. When we see thousands of people marching together, and many of them are holding up large flags, okay, what's the difference? Honest question. If it was like the 1500s and a bunch of British people were marching through France carrying their flags and then were trying to occupy, now, I mean, literally, like, enter a town and then start living there, what do you think the French would have done? They'd be like, we're being invaded by the British. This is an attack. And what do you think would happen if you tried to stop them? Well, we saw that. In several instances during the Trump's first administration, we saw these caravans physically attack people at our border. Our National Guard, our police, our CBP, they were being rushed and attacked and using shields to block invaders. There was the viral moment from San Diego where you got the woman grabbing her kids and there's tear gas everywhere. And they were like, they're tear gassing children. And I'm like, it's an invasive force attacking our country. What do you expect to happen? So I say sedition. I say sedition indeed, my friends. This is an effort to undermine, overthrow, and delay the execution of any law of this country. The purpose of these illegal immigrants being allowed in is because they are trying to bolster their electoral college vote count illicitly and their congressional seat count. Now, we also have this story. Attorney General Pam Bondi warns ICE Block app developer to watch out, says the DOJ is looking at him. That's interesting. The DOJ is looking at a guy who made an ICE Block app, and this one's interesting. ICE Block allows anonymous users to share where they've seen ICE agents. First Amendment or sedition? The challenge here is that the effort is obviously to undermine, overthrow, and disrupt the U.S. government. But the Founding Fathers wanted speech, free speech, specifically because they were speaking out against the Crown and were penalized for it. The First Amendment was basically, look, the Crown did bad, we were having meetings, speaking about what we wanted, and they called it treason and they attacked us. So no, we should be allowed to meet. Now, I don't think the Founding Fathers thought the First Amendment was going to mean that you can march through streets and lock things down and obstruct people's ways of life. But that's where we are now. So I don't know if I think there's anything that can be done about a guy who made an app where people can say, I saw an ICE agent. There is a challenge, I think. Maybe there's like a civil one. Hey, look, the monitor just changed again. It took like 5 minutes and it switched back. I have no idea what that's all about. Anyway, we'll get it fixed. Long story short, the guy made an app. I'm curious what you guys think, so comment. There's a certain point at which this is not just speech. This is the creation of a system by which people can seek to obstruct federal law enforcement, to aid and abet in an invasive force, non-citizens, criminal aliens. Let me put it this way. If you are instructing or advising a criminal on how to evade law enforcement, is that free speech? Nope. I'll put it again. I'll say it again. Guy robs a bank and he's hiding in an alley and you see cops are coming and you see the bank robber. So you go and you go, hey, buddy, the cops are coming. They're coming this way. Run the other direction. And then he runs off. You just aided and abetted a criminal fugitive. You get charged for that. But I have free speech rights, not when you are aiding and abetting crimes. Now, for threats of violence, it's imminent. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. I'm pretty sure if you go to someone and say, here's how you do criminal thing and avoid the police. Now, ICE Block, what is the purpose? To tell people who are breaking the law how to avoid law enforcement. I make the argument. This violates, what is it? I think it's 8 USC 1324. Yep. Title 8, 1324. And that would be encouraging and inducing any person to reside here illegally. So I'd argue, lock them up. Now, my friends, it is not just happening here in these United States. In fact, we had this big story in Glastonbury where a rapper, Bob Villain, was chanting, "You're never getting your country back," at these people. Now, the U.S. has revoked his visa, and we're going to get into that, and we'll be joined by Carl Benjamin, a.k.a. Sargon of Akkad. That'll be at 4 p.m. at rumble.com/TimPool and youtube.com/Timcast. So make sure you check that out. Don't forget to smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. Stay tuned. We got more segments coming up for you. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all then.